In this video, I'm going to talk about how paranoid schizophrenia offers a raw, unfiltered view into the nature of our collective shadow. This condition is where the fabric of our matrix reality peels back at the edges, offering a peek behind the curtain. Jerry Masinski has to be credited for revealing the truth about paranoid schizophrenia. You can check his work at jerrymasinski.com. However, in this video, I tie it all together to provide the big picture. Paranoid schizophrenia exposes the collective shadow's modus operandi, and from this, the agents of the collective shadow are also revealed. I will start by explaining what the collective shadow is and how it operates, then we'll get into the agents of the collective shadow, which are known as narcissists and psychopaths. The collective shadow is our own mass manifestation, and it serves a specific purpose. People below non-duality levels continuously generate negative energies by default. This is due to the friction between the flow of our consciousness and our resistances to this flow. In other words, the negative ego, individual shadow, unworthiness complex, or whatever you want to call it. If billions of people continuously generated negativity unchecked, the system would collapse under its own weight pretty quickly. The collective shadow is like bacteria that break down waste in nature to maintain balance in the ecosystem. It exists in the astral plane, feeding on and breaking down negative energies. This keeps the system in a dynamic equilibrium. However, on this planet, the dynamic equilibrium has been pushed close to the tipping point of complete self-destruction. Because so much negativity has been accumulated for so long, the collective shadow has grown into an abomination. It's even being worshipped as Lucifer by the ruling class, so-called elite. They live in a symbiotic relationship with it, gaining more worldly power the more negativity they help facilitate. The whole idea of the ascension mission is to balance out this severe imbalance, to bring humanity out of this karmic quagmire and back on the evolutionary track. The collective shadow is also our collective karmic debt, an accumulated database of negativity. By increasing our level of consciousness, we are reducing the food source of the collective shadow, which is the only way to loosen its grip over this planet. So, let's now take a closer look at how the collective shadow operates. Paranoid schizophrenics hear single or multiple voices that they usually believe to be their own thoughts. These voice beings are the foot soldiers of the collective shadow, sometimes referred to as archons. The voice beings are always running the same negative patterns, gaslighting to maximize fear, paranoia, and the negative energies they feed off of. The voice beings always seek to isolate the schizophrenic from friends and family, and then they start to chip away at the person's sanity and self-worth. They do this by constantly judging, devaluing, and diminishing the person, using sore spots, past regrets, and current events to further their agenda. Their aim is to break people down, have a feeding frenzy, and get them so deep into negativity and delusion that they will do negative stuff to themselves or others. The collective shadow operates like this in everyone, but is usually more subtle in so-called normal people. As long as you experience thought voices in your mind, you are on the schizophrenia spectrum. What determines how close these voice beings can come is the strength of the light of your awareness. In other words, your level of consciousness. The higher your level of consciousness, the further you push the voice beings away. Like trolls and vampires, the voice beings cannot survive in the light of awareness. They are forced to circle the fringes of your awareness, always seeking to insert negative thoughts at unguarded moments to maximize conflict and negativity. This is how you ground the New Age concept of light versus darkness in reality. Even at level 330, you are still around 50% negative or unintegrated. This gives the collective shadow plenty of attack surface and blind spots to work with. In the 500s, you have far more peace and silence, as the voice beings have a hard time getting close to you. This also explains why mass meditations reduce violent crime. It creates a unified field of awareness that makes it harder for the voice beings of the collective shadow to operate in the focus area. This brings us to the agents of the collective shadow. It's important to realize that everyone is potentially an agent of the collective shadow. Only the degree varies according to your level of consciousness. Paranoid schizophrenics are like the premium blue ribbon milking cows of the collective shadow and can potentially be turned into agents if they are deluded into doing something negative. However, our focus now will mainly be on what is known as narcissism. Everyone has narcissistic traits to various degrees because our trauma-based personality is shaped by being rooted in a sense of disconnectedness, unworthiness, and inferiority. The compensation drive this creates is narcissism in action, often taking the form of trying to prove you're superior to others in different ways. However, in the more extreme cases of narcissism, there is a real Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation going on. To maintain the deep-seated and compensating assumption of being superior and perfect, the narcissist has to repress the reality of their unworthiness complex to such a degree that they become split in two, the mask and the shadow. Empaths, who are the polar opposite of narcissists, are more honest about feeling unworthy and inferior. They typically take the victim mentality stance instead of the abusive stance of the narcissist. Empaths often end up in relationships with abusive narcissists as part of their karmic balancing process, as narcissists crave people willing to be devalued to pump their own grandiose sense of self-importance. When a narcissist flips into their trauma-based shadow side, they become a pure agent of the collective shadow. This happens seamlessly in brief glimpses of hurtful remarks or for longer periods of abusive rants. Either way, their modus operandi mirrors how the collective shadow operates with paranoid schizophrenics. It's like being under a 360-degree demonic assault. The voice beings will come through at every unexpected angle and timing to hit your sore spots. The criticism and hurtful remarks are often laced with just enough truth to be shocking. When put in a state of shock, the victim becomes more susceptible to accepting what the narcissist is saying. It's the same principle as stage hypnosis. The hypnotist puts the subject in a mild state of shock by doing something unexpected, then puts the person to sleep on his command. This is how the collective shadow, using the narcissist as its tool, starts to take over control and become the arbiter of truth in the relationship. The narcissist always seeks to isolate their victim from friends and family, just like the collective shadow does with paranoid schizophrenics. Then, the collective shadow works through the narcissist to chip away at the victim's self-worth and sanity while siphoning off the negative energies. The narcissist will often flash a demonic smirk of satisfaction as the energy is being harvested, and sometimes their eyes can turn pitch black when in this state. It's like there is no one home, just a dark, evil absence. The longer you stay in a relationship with a narcissist, the lower your level of consciousness will become. I've experienced such a person myself when doing mandatory military service many years ago. I was assigned as a guard of the camp hospital, and the sergeant gave me a subtle warning about the head nurse. She seemed like a nice enough middle-aged lady to me. However, one time when I came into the kitchen, she was standing there eyes black and giving off an energy of pure evil. I was so shocked that I froze in place, and she started lecturing me about how to clean the kitchen properly and blah blah blah. She then suddenly turned and left, and it never happened again. Psychopaths are just more extreme cases of the same. They are pure puppets of the collective shadow. They cannot change since they are hardwired like that in the brain. Most narcissists will also never change, although milder cases can potentially heal the underlying traumas that caused the split. For the record, I do not recommend trying to heal, help, or change an abusive narcissist. Instead, learn the karmic lesson quickly and remove yourself from the equation before he or she ruins your life. The empath tends to pity the narcissist because they see the fragile, inflated ego underneath it all and may get stuck trying to save their abuser. The trauma bonding relationship only breaks when the empath finally chooses to reclaim their power, take charge of their life, and lift themselves out of the lower levels of victim consciousness. Then they no longer project their own self-pity onto the narcissist and stop being narcissistic supply for them. On a global scale, the same has been going on for humanity as a whole, which has been kept in a state of victim mentality by the so-called ruling class elite, who worship the collective shadow as Lucifer. Many still look up to and worship the ruling class representatives, but a growing number of people have seen through the charade. The mass consciousness is also a lot higher than it used to be. which is why everything is coming to light these days and big changes are on the horizon. If you want to save time and get a complete and concise overview of everything I talk about on this channel, I suggest you get a copy of my ebook via the link below. I go into great detail about the root cause of suffering, negativity and evil, and this part of the book is available for free via the Kindle preview. I then explain the levels of consciousness before I present the fastest way to reach the unconditional love levels with a simple action plan to get you started. Click the link below to get your copy today.